We're so thrilled to have you on the show. You're a very prolific author, 11 books, and you've got a new book. Is it come out or it's coming out?
It's already released.
Okay.
Came out Monday.
All right. Tell us the title of this book.
Called Autism, I Have Desires Too.
And the subject matter?
It's all about puberty, dating, relationships, and sexuality for teens and young adults on the spectrum.
Okay, and this is a subject we definitely need to hear more about. But Travis, you also identify yourself as an adult who is on the spectrum, correct?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay.
I have autism and was diagnosed when I was 22.
And what better voice to hear this from than from somebody who is on the spectrum? So who exactly is this book for? Is this a book that we're going to give to a parent to talk about with a teenager? Or are we going to give this directly to the teenager?
The book is multiple audiences, really. Whenever I write something, I try and write it at a level where it can kind of intertangle with different audiences. And the book is definitely for a parent, to be given to a parent. And ideally, I would like to see parents going through this book with their teenagers as well. And also, a book is definitely a must-have for anybody who's therapists or educators, things like that. So.
And Travis, what would you say, what's the biggest misconception that parents and therapists are walking through the world thinking about in terms of puberty and sexuality in individuals who are on the spectrum? Where are we really getting it wrong?
Really, where we're getting it wrong is we're not, I don't know if you've ever heard the term the birds and bees of sexuality and puberty or things like that. Sexuality is a thing that we in America are uncomfortable talking about.
Yes.
And so sometimes when we do things, when we're teaching our kids, we don't fully explain things. We try and bypass the question or take the short answer, take the short route. And so the situation might happen. This is just a classic example. Sometimes when people are teaching sexuality, they're using pictures that are like animated, cartoon-like pictures of body parts.
Mm-hmm.
It's really not going to help your child. That's really not going to do any good. As crazy as it sounds, the teens need to see the real image, what it looks like, how exactly, so they know what they're getting into. So we can't kind of sugarcoat it. We need to go more in depth and talk about what it really is and explain things like that. And also when we're dealing with teens on the spectrum, you have to use real language. You can't use, terms that you can't be afraid to say the word penis.
Right. We like to speak euphemistically and we like to couch everything and be very politically correct. But when you're trying to teach a totally new concept to an individual on the spectrum, this is not going to be effective teaching strategy, correct?
Not at all.
Yeah.
And you really got to also, there's Peter Gerhardt. He's a great behavior analyst. And he goes into the schools every 2 to 3 years. They send their therapist into schools just to find out from teens, other kids, they need to know from other neurotypical teens, what are the slang words being used nowadays? Because you really got to go in and you got to teach your kids the slang terms.
And they do change.
Yes, they do very rapidly. And you're going to end up in a situation where your child, if they don't know that language, is going to end up being bullied or made fun of.
Yes. Travis, I think that this book sounds absolutely incredible. Where can we get it?
You can get it at my website that I have. I have a list of all my books on there.
And we've got that up on our screen right now.
Okay, you got it up? Great.
Yep. And so we can go there, and so there are many books that are on there. There's a total of 11 books that are on there. And what is the cost of the new book?
$26.99.
Okay, but a great book, a great resource for anybody who has a child who's on the spectrum. And I would imagine it'd be good to read it before they get into puberty, right?
Definitely. You want to prepare because you want to do things very important. Obviously, I'm not a girl, but some things that I've learned is a girl going into puberty is going to have sensory issues with things like bras or pads or tampons.
Yes.
And so a good idea to do with your girl, and I talk about this in the book, would be to start, by the age of 10 or 11, have her start wearing a pad for a couple hours at a time and desensitize that a little bit.
Yeah.
Kind of help prepare for that. And you can probably do the same thing. I don't really know about this because I'm not an expert, but you can probably do the same thing with bras. Start them a little sooner.
Yeah.
Desensitize them a little bit. So you got to be one step ahead because, and you can't don't take things for granted because people with autism are very literal thinkers. I know a girl who ended up being pregnant and she's in her younger 20s and she's on the spectrum. And here's a situation that happened. Growing up, mom and dad always told her, you can't get pregnant until you get married. They didn't approve of her getting pregnant until she would get married.
Yes.
But he thought mom and dad meant physically and scientifically it wasn't possible for her to get pregnant until she was married. So context is a huge thing. And I have an entire book on social context, social thinking. You just really got to be very literal. And if you think you're being literal, take it a step even farther.
Yeah, we got to be clear. Travis, I thank you so much for taking the time to write this book and to be so clear about it and to not have to feel self-conscious about it because clearly, you get right down to brass tacks with it. So we want to encourage people to go and get the book and we want to celebrate you for having done this. So I thank you for being with us.
Thanks for having me. I appreciate it.